In the days before the bloodiest day in American history, Robert E. Lee's most trusted Corps commander gave him a direct warning. Lee ignored it. This is James Longstreet's eyewitness account of the critical mistake that fractured the Confederate Army and his desperate struggle to hold the line at the Sunken Road. The following is his story, in his own words. The situation now demanded an immediate military response. As Longstreet stressed, their strategic focus had to shift toward the crossings of the Potomac. To spare Virginia's lands from further war, Robert E. Lee and his officers agreed. Launching an offensive campaign had become imperative. Confederate forces mobilized swiftly. Longstreet commenced his advance toward Leesburg and crossed the Potomac River. By September 7th, his divisions arrived in Frederick, Maryland. There, segments of the local populace greeted them with enthusiasm, providing provisions and vocal support. Then Lee made a pivotal proposal. Prioritizing security for the Army's rear, he suggested redeploying troops to seize Harper's Ferry. Longstreet opposed this strategy. He cautioned that fragmenting their forces, with Union threats so nearby, risked disaster. The following day, Longstreet convened with Lee and Jackson at headquarters. They were a trio marked by physical adversity. Lee's hands were immobilized in splints after an injury. Longstreet limped in a slipper due to a blistered heel, and Jackson was nursing wounds from a horseback accident. Despite Longstreet's strong advocacy for a unified action against Harper's Ferry, Lee authorized only partial reinforcements from Longstreet's corps to assist Jackson's operation. The Army of Northern Virginia then shifted westward, using the mountainous terrain for defensive cover. Jackson departed for Harper's Ferry, while Longstreet remained stationed at Boonesboro. This arrangement was soon disrupted. Reports came of Federal troops advancing from Hagerstown, prompting Lee to deploy Longstreet northward on September 11th. During the march, Longstreet grew increasingly agitated by the Army's dangerous dispersal. "General," he urged Lee, "I propose we consolidate our position and let the Federal forces engage us here." Harsh conditions exacerbated the campaign. Relentless forced marches from Richmond had left the troops exhausted. Desertion rates soared, reducing their effective strength by an estimated 25% as they pressed northward. The difficulties only intensified. In this area of Maryland, the populace showed far less support for Southern objectives. Troops foraging for supplies met with antagonistic responses, doors shut forcefully, and spoken insults. Between September 12th and 13th, Longstreet's command secured a brief period of rest near Hagerstown. This fragile peace shattered when J.E.B. Stuart informed Lee that Federal troops were moving through the Catoctin Mountains toward South Mountain. With McClellan's army poised to exploit the divided Confederates, Lee and Longstreet hastily formed a plan. Longstreet counseled a fallback to Sharpsburg to construct strong defensive positions, allowing for unified counterstrikes. Lee dismissed this. He chose instead to meet the Union soldiers at South Mountain. At Turner's, Fox's, and Crampton's Gaps, Confederate detachments endured fierce fighting. The weakened condition of D.H. Hill's men at Turner's Gap led Longstreet to warn Lee of an imminent breakdown without support. Lee finally approved a withdrawal under cover of darkness. Falling back to Sharpsburg, Lee deployed his men along the heights surrounding Antietam Creek. Longstreet arrived on September 15th, just as word came of Jackson's victory at Harper's Ferry. Expecting McClellan's attack on the 17th, the Southern forces reorganized. Longstreet established his command post at the Piper farmhouse, situated 500 yards south of the Sunken Lane. The owners, Henry and Elizabeth Piper, hosted Longstreet and General Hill for dinner, offering wine. Longstreet initially declined, fearing tampering, but conceded after seeing Hill drink without issue. The commanders slept in the orchard that night. On September 16th, after a morning meal with the Pipers, Longstreet inspected the defensive arrangements with Lee. Then, as foreseen, McClellan's army began its advance. The Battle of Antietam commenced on the 17th. The opening engagements raged around Miller's cornfield, the nearby woods, and the Dunker Church. Longstreet managed operations on the right flank before riding to meet Lee and Hill, who were on horseback near the Sunken Road. Observing Hill's exposed stance, Longstreet noted wryly, "If you are determined to attract their shots, please leave intervals so we may stay out of their view." Shortly after, a cannon blast tore the legs from Hill's mount. "That shell was meant for you," Longstreet commented flatly as turmoil broke out. Despite the somber scene, Longstreet observed with a mordant wit as Hill labored to free himself from the convulsing animal. "This side, Hill," he instructed with dry detachment. "No, the opposite. Slide down or go over its head." Once extracted, the maimed horse was put down. An aide would later remember Longstreet's preternatural calm amidst the bombardment, his sole nervous tell the grinding of his teeth on cigars. From his post at the Piper farm, he oversaw the ferocious fighting in the Sunken Road, later named Bloody Lane, while managing the flow of reserves. The commitment of General Richard Anderson's division to support Hill failed to turn the tide. Anderson was struck down, passing command to Roger Pryor. As the artillery fire grew more devastating, Pryor desperately asked for aid. Longstreet's reply was definitive. "Artillery is coming, General. It is victory or death here. We cannot withdraw." A chaotic Confederate pullback enabled Union troops to penetrate the line. Longstreet sent in Miller's battery, but when its gunners fell, his own staff, Sorrell, Gorey, Walton, Fairfax, Manning, were forced to handload and fire the cannons into the oncoming soldiers. Seated on his horse in the midst of the turmoil, Longstreet called for canister shot, these makeshift crews helping to drive back the Union advance. Later, Longstreet would redirect any commendations for his command. In his memoirs, he named D.H. Hill the real hero of the day, writing, "Had a Virginian performed Hill's role, history would celebrate it without end." But Hill came from the deeper South. Concurrently, Burnside's Union Corps successfully forded Antietam Creek, stopped solely by the timely arrival of A.P. Hill's men. The engagement ended with over 23,000 total casualties, the single bloodiest day in the nation's history. Longstreet's own aides paid a steep price. Walton was shot in the shoulder. Sorrell was stunned by a shell burst. When Major Fairfax's horse was killed, he exclaimed, "General, Saltram is hit right through the back." Longstreet responded with characteristic dryness, "Be glad it was not your back, Major." That night, Longstreet was absent from Lee's council, causing worry. He appeared tardily, still holding a cigar, having stopped to help a Sharpsburg family extinguish a fire started by a shell. Visibly relieved, Lee welcomed him. "Ah, my old warhorse, your voice is needed. We are listening." Following their planning session, the officers arranged what meager supplies they could for the men, steeling themselves for whatever the coming daylight would bring.